Hi, I'm your host, Anand Sukhadia, and this is the Limitless One podcast. Join me on this journey as I interview the most inspirational souls who are tapping into their limitless blueprint on a mental, physical, and spiritual level to thrive in uncertain times. If you feel you are so much more than just this body, just this life, and want to tap into your limitless potential, you're in the right place. Here we go, Starseeds. Do you want to learn how to make millions of dollars in real estate investing? Our guest today started with $0 and creating a multi-million-dollar portfolio, not only for himself, but for also many of his clients. Welcome to the Limitless One podcast, everyone. Today, we are tapping into our limitless potential to learn about how to create massive wealth with real estate investor Tommy Tran of Group 26 Real Estate. Tommy was literally born in a mud hut and came to the United States around the age of 8 years old. His mom came as a single mom here with 5 young children, and Tommy grew up with a very strong work ethic. Tommy ended up graduating top of his class at Rutgers University and then worked for the state and federal governments and then with the U.S. General Services Administration for about 2 decades before taking his destiny into his own hands and becoming a real estate portfolio manager. Tommy is a partner at Group 26 Real Estate in Jersey City. To date, Tommy has transacted and created several millions of dollars in net worth for his clients, and he's going to be sharing some of that knowledge with us here today. Tommy, welcome to the podcast, brother. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Yeah, man, it's so exciting to have you on. You know, we were in a networking group together last year before the pandemic. And dude, like you were just telling us these amazing stories of, you know, your real estate deals that you were doing. And you just explained it in such a simple way. And you have such a cool concept towards investing. And I really wanted to get you on to kind of share that knowledge with other people and give them access to your amazing brain. So I'm excited to jump into this thing. Let's start out with a question. Tommy, what does living a limitless life mean to you?
To me, living a limited life is like basically the ability to live the life that you truly want versus, just waking up and getting through the day. My belief is that the ability to live the way you want to versus just living life,
Yeah, and how did that mindset come to you? Like, were you always that way, or did you develop this philosophy over time?
Actually, it took some time because I used to work for the state and government, and it was safety was always a key, in terms of making sure you have a solid job and whatnot, and I guess predicted income at the end of the month. And as I grew older and saw that my side hustle could basically make more money than my main hustle, I realized that, like, hey, listen, like if you're sitting in the middle of the table and you have other people, multimillionaires and billionaires, they could eat whatever that they want, and yet we're here happy to just eat the little things that we have. And it's like, why can't we have what they have? And I've met people that are multimillionaires, very close to billionaires as well. And it's not like they have some super brain or way more intelligent than us. So for me, it was just like that acknowledgement that I can do as much as them, or I could even be better than them. That's what sort of like helped me to kind of think that way.
Amazing, brother. So let's get into your story. I want to hear about it. Let's start out, you growing up in a mud hut. Tell us about, how you got to this place in life.
Sure. So we pretty much grew up in Vietnam, and I would have to say that when I was growing up in a mud hut, it wasn't abnormal because everybody in my area grew up in a mud hut, right? You don't really know you're poor until you actually leave that country or leave that environment, when you realize, wow, I was so deprived. I was working at the age of like 5 or 6 with my siblings at night to hunt for like basically shrimp or fish and whatever that we could in order for us to survive. So times were really tough because I was born after the communists took over, And so there was a very limited amount of opportunity for people to be able to make ends meet. So my mom did whatever that she could to survive, and we all had to pitch in at a very very early age. That experience has taught me a lot on in terms of just to be grateful for what you have. You really don't know what not having an opportunity is like until you actually go to a third world country.
100%, man. Like I think about it all the time. Like I'm so grateful for my parents to make the decision. And it takes so much courage for your mom, for my parents to leave a situation in a country to come to an entirely brand new world. And at that time, we didn't have social media and like, the news, we didn't know it. Like there was only a myth about what America was back in the 70s or 60s or whatever they came over. And, it takes so much, especially as a single mom. Like she literally probably came here with nothing in her pocket and with 5 kids just to give you guys a chance at a better life. So I think that, they say like Asian Americans are probably the top 1% in terms of net worth in the United States. I really believe it's because of the hard work ethic. They came from in a place where there was no opportunity. They came to a place that, wow, you finally do have opportunity. And then they made it happen for their lives and for their generations, below them.
It was an extreme struggle to get to this point, and be honest with you, I don't think I would ever live to this age because of the environment that we were we had to go through.
Yeah.
We were in an area that were predominantly very, like I would say, working class, very poverty stricken, and fights, violence, as well as drugs was a part of life. And very few people, sort of grew up and made it to this point. And I was very fortunate that she always instilled like education as the key to be able to get out of your situation. My mom was not, educated in the normal traditional sense. She had, I think, 2nd or 3rd grade education, but she always pushed for all of her kids to at least go through college and get educated. So that helped us a lot in terms of like many of us now, I would say, out of the kids that she brought over, 4 out of 5 became college educated. And, that led us to a better life as a result of it.
Amazing. And okay, so bring us through now that, you went to college, you graduated top of your class. Rutgers is a big school, dude. So how did she accomplish that feat?
So I think for me, psychology was something, my major was psychology. It was something that I was very passionate about learning. And so I did very well in school. I've always done really well in school, and not to like boast or anything, but it just came very easily to me. But my mom, she didn't really like have a set guidance that like, hey, this is a major that you need to go and what she just said, hey, listen, study what you like and go and finish whatever you started. So I went to, learning about psychology and understanding myself and then understanding other people as well as, just understanding emotions and motivations and stuff like that. When I graduated college, many people came to me and was like, hey, you're going to starve. You're not going to be able to find a job. And at first it was like, okay, that's funny, right? And then 10 people say it to you, you're like, really? Like, I'm not going to be able to find a job. Like, oh my God, right? So that fear started setting in. But I think that what I learned from that experience is that it's not what degree you have, it's what hustle is inside of you. So, immediately before college, I started sending out my application. I started getting working jobs. I took like basically whatever jobs that was available. And then ultimately I landed up working for DIFUS, which is the Division of Youth and Family Services, as a child abuse investigator or caseworker. During that time, I never thought how that experience would translate or help me, in my transition. But if you can deal with like grumpy grandmas, about to hit you with a pot and pan, you can deal with tough negotiation. You can deal with tenants issues. You can deal with a variety of issues. So what they taught me most was how to handle crisis management. And so that was really, really key. I didn't really understand that going through that process, but then ultimately what helped me to really polish up was when I got the job with the federal government. So with the federal government, I was a customer service director, and my job was to help Department of Defense as well as other federal agencies to be able to acquire resources, whether it's weapon systems or a car or whatever the case may be, for them to be able to fulfill their mission. So that really helped me to polish up on my verbal as well as written communication. And you realize, or like I was bringing in about 150 to 200 million dollars of new money to the GSA. And when you look at it, like when you deal with large transactions, so like we didn't even blink when it came to like an acquisition of $1 million or 2 million. We didn't even blink because that was part of what we do. We're like a very high sales type of person, in terms of acquisition. So that really helped me to transition into real estate because we're dealing with 500 millions and multi-million-dollar deals. And so like I'm very accustomed and used to dealing with high net individuals as well as that type of negotiation.
Wow, very interesting. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense because, for real estate investing is a little bit, I guess it's, there's a little bit of fear involved in that. Okay, what if I make the wrong decision? There's a lot of money on the line. I get into debt and then the market crashes. So, when you come in from that perspective of, oh yeah, like $100 million is like a normal deal for me. And okay, I'm just going to downgrade to a couple $1 million in real estate. It's like, okay, we're playing with pennies. So really in investing, you can invest $5, you can invest $5 million, but it's just a number of zeros. So if you're not overwhelmed by those numbers, then yeah, you can, the bigger, I guess, pond you play in, the bigger the returns, obviously.
Yeah. I was definitely, going into real estate. I was investing in real estate at the age of 24. So buying, selling real estate was really something that I became very accustomed to. And then, working for the GSA also helped me to, not be nervous about buying multi-million-dollar acquisitions.
Yeah. So tell us why real estate? Why did you decide that, at the time that you were in, right out of college?
Sure. So after graduating college with a psychology degree, I knew that, I was working for the state. I was making like $50-some thousand at the time. And my current wife, or, at the time it was my girlfriend, she was studying to be a pharmacist. And I was like, there's something in me. I was like, I'm not going to be outdone. I mean, it's
healthy competition.
Yeah, it's a healthy competition. I'm like, I'm not going to be outdone. But, she was at Barnes and Noble studying her pharmacy degree. And I was like, I'm sitting here. Why don't I, pick up a book and learn something, And so I started, just coincidentally, picking up a real estate book. And a few of them, I started, really reading into it, and I started really loving it. And a couple of the books that always stood out in my mind was the Cash Flow Quadrant.
Kiyosaki, right?
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, as well as Next Door Millionaire. Mm-hmm. They taught me like how to be able to, think in terms of having money or make money for me versus me working for that money. And I know that, with my current situation, although I had a steady paycheck, I was not going to be wealthy if I continue at this rate, because I looked at, I think at the time, my manager, who was head of that entire office, he was, maybe perhaps 60 years old, and he was pulling in about 90K, because with state public employees, you can see their salary.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I stay here another 30 years, this is what I can expect, right? And I knew that I wasn't going to be wealthy working for the state. So I better, figure out an alternative. And the Next Door Millionaire, they talked about basically firefighters as well as police officers investing in real estate on the side. And so I gave that a try. And then, went from single family to multifamily, and then, just started building up. And then little, do I know, like within the next 10 years, like all my friends and family started to come to me as a result of that success.
So were you just rolling like say one deal into the next, or were you? What was your strategy at the time? Was it like buy and hold and rent, or like the quick flips? Like what was your, or is it a combination of everything?
So I didn't know what was gonna work, but all I knew was that the market rental at the time. Now we have a lot more information
Yeah.
in terms of Zillow and Realtor.com, and there's a lot of ways for an investor to be able to do a lot of homework on a property. When I started, it wasn't always like that. So what I did was I purchased a property, and looking back, I wish somebody would say, "Hey, don't get that property." But that property taught me so much. We bought a two-family in New Brunswick, and if you're familiar with New Brunswick, they have like homes that are a lot older. So you're talking about like those doors with the funny knobs, that you can't go to Home Depot and get it replaced because they have this little intricate hole. So that property, basically everything that could go wrong went wrong. And as a result, I had to learn how to fix a lot of these things or hire people to learn how to fix them. And what I did was I would just watch them and see how they fix things. And then as a result of just watching, and I even pay them in terms of like, just to see how it's done, right? That knowledge is very key because later on, when a person tries to tell me that, this is the way to do it and whatnot, I already know how to do it. And actually, a lot of the work, I know how to do it with my hands, because I became so handy as a result of just fixing a lot of the stuff that, or issues that I had with that property.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So it just kind of like, I grew, once you own a property like that, you learn to fix a lot of things. And then as a result, we took the profit that we've made and then purchase other property. At the time, so I was very, very familiar with Central Jersey. And I thought 10% or 12% cash on cash return was wow, that's amazing, But when I went over to Jersey City, the cash on cash return was even higher than that. At the time, it was like 16, and the overall return was like maybe 25%. I know that these numbers sounds like really out there, but it still is happening today. It's to the savvy investor, like that's the type of margins that we go for.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I came over to Jersey City, the profits was huge. I mean, we're talking about making double your returns in a few months, and I was not alone because there was other investors that I knew, and they were making, we're talking about like, when we're talking about double your money, we're talking about like 250, 300, 400. I've seen even $1 million, made in a matter of a year. It's hard work, but that those type of opportunities just didn't exist anywhere. So I was very fortunate that Jersey City was on its way up, and I jumped into it hard, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, so I remember you were saying that you were just following where like developers were putting their money into and then buying around that area. Like, tell us a little bit. I didn't know you had a couple of deals over on Marin Boulevard that can you tell us a little bit of that story?
Yeah, sure. So my in-laws lived in downtown Jersey City before it was hot and cool. And so during that time, we're expecting our child. And so we wanted to get a property that was close to my in-laws for, help with the baby. And then that's when I started doing homework around Jersey City. And then I quickly realized that when you're dealing with Jersey City as well as just city environment, you really have to understand the valuation of land as well as air rights. So what happened was that I bought a property. At the time, it was undervalued, underappreciated, but it was only 2.5 blocks away from Grove Street, the PATH station. So I think we picked it up for $245, and it was really, really low. And then later on, we had multiple developers, wishing to buy our property for over the millions. And so we bought a few more after that acquisition, because once you realize and find out that the land is worth a lot more, it's, especially in city, sometimes it's not the house, it's what, the air rights are for those houses. So we're hoping to close maybe perhaps the end of the year, but we have to see.
That's amazing. So Tommy, tell us a little bit about the benefits that you get from investing in real estate versus other asset classes, whether it's you're investing in stock markets or precious metals or anything like that. I know there's a lot of great tax advantages of real estate.
Yes, there is tax advantages, but I think, like, if you're a guy like myself who likes hard asset, real estate is really a great investment vehicle, because it can never go down to zero, especially, property that is in more prime location, by jobs and commerce. I've always loved real estate because of that, because I know where my money is hiding, right? I know where it is, versus like sometimes stocks and whatnot, a billionaire decides to sell that stock and then you're left holding the bag for a very long time. I love real estate because, you could really grow your money. The tenants pay down your debt, your principal, and then, you make money as a result of it.
Awesome, dude. And so Jersey City right now, right? So like a lot of people say, oh, it's too overinflated, like you can't make any money. What would you say to people right now, like if you were to tell them how to actually look for good deals?
Yeah, I just saw a property that was near my brownstone project. They had bought it for, I think, 300,000 and just sold it for, I think, close to 800,000, right? There is evidence and proof that there are people that are making a lot of money regardless, whatever the market is. The cream always rises to the top, right?
Yeah.
But, sometimes when I tell people, that brownstone project and I'm working on, I picked it up for 260,000. Most people will be like, how is that possible? It's possible because there are people doing it, right? You leverage cash as a vehicle to be able to get it at a low price. And you have to come in there with the knowledge or understanding that, you're going to have to put in some sweat equity. But when you release that property, you might 2x or 3x that property as a result of your effort. A lot of, like right now, a lot of the trend or the gurus, they teach you heard of the BRR method?
No.
Buy, renovate, refinance, and repeat. It's called the BRRRR method.
Yeah.
And they're teaching a lot of newbie investors to go in that path because they want that machine to continue. But after really looking at it, the investor is not making a lot, but more so the person that's lending them the money, which is the hard money lenders.
Yeah.
You ever hear about them?
Yeah.
They're the ones actually making the most. And it's not coincident that they used to be investors themselves. And then they realize that, hey, most of the money of wealth is being made by the lender. So why don't I be the hard lender? One of the key things is that the investor goes out and finds the best deal, right? So the price is generally at a discount. The investors look really hard. Finding a great deal is not easy. So he goes and purchases this property, and then he starts renovating the property. And for any reason, if he defaults on the loan, guess what? Who's going to scoop it up? The hard money lender, right? So if they scoop it up, it's already undervalued, under value that they picked it up. It's already undervalued. And so they can flip it and make a huge profit in return, So I would say that when you're a newbie investor coming into this, don't think of this as like, how do I get quick, fast? Like, how do I get rich really fast? Real estate, truly, like the ones that are really successful, it's taking your time, use this, like for example, find a real estate agent that is very investor focused to help you to grow your portfolio and your money. Don't be so quick to say, hey, how do I use other people's money? Because as a result, like you could lose a lot of your credibility, right? You don't know what you're doing. and you can hurt the people that you care most about, because most of the time they're asking friends and family and stuff like that. And you jump into a situation and that could be your last transaction in real estate. It's very easy to be very broke in this field. So if you want to get into real estate, find a real estate agent that is investor focused and that understand like the investment side of the house to help you to scale up and then to grow your portfolio.
Yeah.
Versus what they do is they teach them to like put as little equity as possible, renovate, and then sell it quickly, and then take your little profit and then go over to the next property and then roll it again. And as you can see, it's like the margins are very small to begin with because you don't have a big amount of equity putting down. Your holding cost takes a chunk of your money. So it's not, and a lot of people boast about like, oh, I got like 100 units, I have 1,000 units, and it's like as if they're comparing their general size or something like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Because at the end of the day, it's not how many units you have, it's how much those units actually produce and what is the value of those units that really matter, right? Quality versus quantity. And I think that you've read the book also, Cash Flow Quadrant, to know that real estate is a liability if you don't own it straight out.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning that if you are late on your payment or things of that sort, the government or perhaps the mortgagee will take that property back from you. So it's a huge liability. Why would you want 1,000 units? In my mind, that's more liability at your, that you have to deal with, versus if you own one or two investment vehicle that can produce as much as 1,000 units. Wouldn't you rather have that?
Yeah.
And in terms of buying quality, investment, that when you go and resell it, there's going to be no problem because that's a product that everybody's going to want, versus, buying something very cheap. And that's the one thing that a lot of newbie investors, they're like, where can I get the cheapest house? And let me head straight to Newark. Let me head straight to Irvington and stuff like that. And I was like, to me, it just doesn't work that way for me, because I want to buy a great product, take my time to be able to renovate, fix it, rent it, and then time will appreciate itself. And then ultimately I can, sell it back for a huge profit.
Yeah. And you're factoring in any kind of slight downturns in the market when you're going into the buying, right? So like the buying is the most important part, like buying at the right price and then making sure there's enough value, even if the market does downturn, right?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of the loans are like 15 to 30-year loans, right? And the problem is that in the scheme of real estate, like about 10 to 15 years along the line, there's always some type of catastrophe. The last one we had was the Great Recession, right?
Yeah.
And then now we have the pandemic. And what it led to was like the recession, a lot of the tenants couldn't pay their rent because they lost their jobs. Houses were, basically depreciated significantly. People couldn't refinance. In this pandemic situation, a lot of tenants are not paying their landlords because of federal regulation, eviction moratorium, and things of that sort. That causes a lot of problems now because landlords are not getting the help that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. And the banks are not really giving them any concessions.
No, absolutely. Like I've had a couple of tenants ask me is the bank helping you? And I said, no, the bank has not offered any type of assistance. I think the only assistance that they're willing to do is that you forego your payment for like 5 or 6 months and you have to pay a big lump sum. Mm-hmm. That's not assisting anybody. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, if you're not getting cash flow as it is, like how are you going to come up with this big chunk of change when in 5 months, right?
Right. And that's where you see, I've talked to a lot of people on Wall Street, they always teach people like put as little down as possible and then buy the next property, et cetera, et cetera. But, the reason why they they teach us that way is because they're benefiting from that type of business model, right? The lending, borrowing. If people just buy things straight up cash, then there is no money for them to be made, So for me, I think it's very, very important that, you put down as much as possible and whatever you're comfortable with, right? Obviously. And then, if there's a pandemic or anything of that sort, you can weather the storm. There's an area, like, for example, in Queens, New York, when the recession happened, it was predominantly owned by, Asian or Chinese or East Asians and whatnot. And even during the recession, the market there did not go down at all because there was a lot of appreciation and equity built into those homes. So people were not just going to just walk away, and as a result, even when they got through the recession, the value of the prices of these homes still went up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Tommy, for someone who's getting into the real estate investing market, I know you have worked with a lot of clients. Tell us how you work with potential clients and what you actually do to help them realize their goals.
Sure. So what I do is I meet with them to see in terms of what they want to invest in, what type of vehicle, because there's different rate of return on investment vehicle, whether you want something that's sort of slower or you want to what is your risk appetite, and so I customize the real estate vehicle for them. Because some people, they're like, I don't want to go to an area that I'm not comfortable with, and I would share with them, if you're looking for a property like in downtown, this is what you can expect in terms of rate of return, Journal Square, the Heights, Greenville. And then, so I educate them about the different vehicles that exist in Bayonne, as well as Jersey City, in Hudson County area. And then, for them to come up with the desired vehicle for themselves. And a lot of times also, I would say that nowadays people like to pool in their resources to be able to acquire property. So we've done, in terms of also group acquisitions, where we'll have let's say, for example, a few doctors or a few lawyers. And what they do is they put the money together and then they go and they buy the property straight up. And then we would go into helping them to find property that are undervalued or underappreciated, help them to renovate it and then rent it out. And then ultimately, whenever they want to sell it, we release that position for them. I think that moving forward, especially in our area where the prices of real estate is relatively high, it's better to do that model versus trying to do it on your own. Because having a $500,000 to $1 million mortgage is tough on one individual versus if you pool your resources together, $200,000 mortgage is very easy and attainable.
Yeah, 100%. Is there any minimum that you look for when you take on potential investors?
For me, it's more so I have to speak with the client to see their risk appetite. If they're willing to go into places that are sort of up and coming, then perhaps there's a lower acquisition cost for them. But it really, I customize based on their financial situation, But I would say, literally, I deal with clients that generally have about $100,000 and up. If it's lower than that, then what you'll have is people, they're really stretching their limit. Mm-hmm. And then, they're going to feel very uncomfortable about investing in real estate at that point. So I would say, if you have $100,000 minimum on there, or if you want to maybe perhaps work with your brothers or your family, then that's something that we kind of coach and consult with them on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So this is probably the most exciting part for me is walk us through some of the deals that you've done in the past, just so we can understand what real estate investing can actually do for you, in a very positive way.
Sure. So I'll share an example how I first kind of started, and this wasn't a home run by any chance, but it kind of showed me the potential. So we bought this. Remember, I mentioned the two multifamily in New Brunswick. So we bought it for $275, and we put in about maybe perhaps $20,000 on rental costs, and then we rented it out for about 5 years. So the principal of that property went down. And then we also cash flow about like 1,300 a month, and for 5 years. And we were good because that location was good for obviously college and postgraduates. And when we exited that property, and we sold it, I think only about 300,000, about 300 something thousand. However, our net was around almost $100,000 in terms of total, from cash flow as well as appreciation, because during that time, the principal kept going down. We did a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage. So that 5-year really cut down on the principal. Yeah. So that's when I had my first taste of investing, and I said, well, this works out pretty good. So the next one was in Jersey City, where I bought a property, and this is where knowing your homework really makes sense. It was one of those distress short sale, and I picked it up in the area by the train station in Jersey City for $125, and we did about maybe perhaps a month of renovation on it, and then we rented it out and we sold it quickly for $275. And that was like when I saw that the flipping game, because the first one was more like buy, hold, and then I saw the flipping game. And then, I went on to buy another property, which was in Bayonne, where I converted a one family, which I picked up for like 200,000, and then, renovated it, and then converted it into a two family. And then now it's valued over 500,000. And then, with the Jersey City property down in downtown, because of the air rights situation, like I shared with you, we found out that it was the last parcel of land that was left that could be built, like, into a skyscraper. We maximized and we pooled resources in order to buy more of those properties there. And that really led, it's multiple home runs at that point. And it changed a lot of people's lives as a result of me just basically, when we bought these properties from these owners, they bought theirs for like 35 and we would buy them for $1 million, because we knew that the long term as well as the air rights would improve in that area.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, properties that are in great areas, you never know the value. And this is life-changing money. Like I know the one example where we used to meet was at Hudson Hall in Jersey City. Right across the street was this car rental place, right? Or it was like a budget car rental. Can you tell us the story?
Yeah. So it's actually one of my buddy that owns it, and he was owned a business as a car rental place
for many years, I think, right?
For many years. Yeah. And he also, that was his side hustle, was actually real estate, because he would own he's a mechanic. Yeah. And he owned real estate, and basically his land was worth way more than his business. And I think I looked on public records, we're talking about in the realms of 45 million, I think, that ultimately got sold for. But that's on record. I don't know what the situation, but he made a good penny off of that. That's always the key, to go ahead of the pack and to understand what you have. That really, is the next level up in real estate, for you to understand the analytics behind it.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I was saying, this is life-changing money. Like you work so hard. This guy probably worked 30, 40 years at his craft, making, maybe he was doing relatively well, but not $45 million that's what he sold that for. So like when you have the right piece of property, like this kind of additional income, it can change your life. It can change your generational wealth and help your kid. Like there's so many things that can happen when you do invest in the right vehicles. So tell us a little bit about like, like for instance, you could have continued your path working for the government, making whatever you were making, and then the potential of making 90K like, your supervisor was, right? You could have went that path. Or you decided, okay, I'm going to continue working here. Whatever money I have, I'm going to diversify that, put it into another asset class, which will grow so much higher. And then now you're at the position where you can actually choose how you want to spend your day rather than working for somebody else and growing their wealth.
Yes. The decision to really cut the cord with the federal government was a very, very tough decision, because I was making six figures, and that's six figures for life. As long as I didn't kill anybody
Yeah.
or steal any money, I was going to have six figures for life, and benefits came with it as well. But it just didn't feel right anymore at that point, because I was intoxicated with real estate. I saw that, my colleagues, people that I, work with, they were making like $600,000 in a couple of months, and these are like 28 years old, 26-year-old people. So I knew that they could do it, and why can't I do it? So at first I didn't cut the cord with the Fed right away. I basically would work as a realtor to see if, I got what it takes. And I did that for 2.5 years or 3 years. And, I was making six figures or above what I was, doing full time. And I proved to myself that this risk is worth it. And, like you said, a couple of deals, you're talking about, $1 million. And you would have to almost work almost like 30 years of your life in order for you to save about $1 million if you were to work for the federal government. So I was like, you know what? I'm young right now. I have a master's degree. If something were to happen, I can always come back and find a job. But the opportunity right now is to make that type of wealth. It's worth the risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a season for every type of asset class. Obviously, you can make money in real estate in any market or any downturn, upturn. But in terms of your overall view on wealth creation, what do you think, like the days that we're living in right now, what does the future of wealth creation look like?
We are living in some like weird times, or, at this point, I think something that I about 15 years ago, when crypto came into the world, Bitcoin, we thought this was absolute nonsense, and it, proven that it was not nonsense. And, really it's the wave of the future. And so I think right now, there are different asset class, and like you said, investment vehicle. I think crypto is ultimately taking the front stage at this point. It used to be real estate, but I think crypto has gained, the front stage in terms of getting a lot of people excited about the returns and the possibility. So I think that there's huge potential in that.
Yeah. So are there any particular coins that you're looking at right now? Obviously, you're not an investor. You're not giving investing advice, but
this is not financial advice. But I am invested in a coin called Safe Moon. It is relatively pretty new. It's about 2.5 months new. And the funny thing is that when you invest early in the stage with all the cryptocurrency that's out there, with Dogecoin, right? I think a recent executive of Goldman Sachs just left because he made millions in Dogecoin, and he invested early, right? And I think a lot of people will say, "Hey, is it too late for me with crypto?" I mean, I think like the last poll that they had, only like 18% of the U.S. population owned crypto, versus stocks. I think it's like 55%. So when we look at it like that vehicle, the investment vehicle is relatively a very new investment vehicle. Many people are not even knowledgeable about what that's all about. Is there dangers to it? Yes, there is absolute danger to it. But I think if you invest it right, I've seen people make 1,000x or become instant millionaires from it. And these are just average people. And it's, the investing in real estate is not a get quick type of scheme, right? Yeah. It takes a lot of hard work, analytics and whatnot. But, crypto, being at the right time, at the right place really, really help, especially right now with the pandemic. There's a lot more people at home and they're willing to invest in that asset class.
Yeah, I think the that survey you're talking about, just recently it came out, and at the next question they asked was how many of the people who are taking the survey are thinking about getting into crypto, and it was about 2/3, so about 66.7%. So I think that we're very early on in that game. Obviously, there's really like coins that are stable and that have been in around for a while, have a lot of applications, and then there's coins that are like they consider them like shit coins, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to name the coin that I'm talking about, but so I was at dinner yesterday with a good friend of mine. He was telling me about this coin that he got in the IPO, right? He put in $1,000. This was 2 days ago. Okay. Guess what the value is right now?
I have no idea. Go ahead, buddy.
So the value of his $1,000 investment in 2 days is now $30,000. But again, like there's so much risk involved in these things. I would say if anyone's looking to get into any of these coins that are, they don't have a lot of application but just are, there's a lot of hype behind them. If you want to put in like a small amount of money that you're willing to completely lose, that's fine. But these are the kinds of gains that are being made by people, and people are being strategic about it. They're getting in at the very ground floor. And that's, that could be an amazing strategy because, hey, we're going to go out to dinner and spend $200, on food and drinks, and, you lose that money, or you can, put in a small amount of money into some of these coins and it could be life-changing stuff. So yeah, I don't want to name the coin because who knows where it's going to be by the time this episode comes out. It could be zero, but yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Now, Tommy, if I gave you $1 million right now, factoring in the world that we live in and the diversification of how you see it playing out, what would you put that money towards, and how would you break it down?
I think at this, point right now, and it's very, we have to, as a person that manages people's wealth, I'm very like honest about like how I would handle your money because of the environment, right? So I think like for me right now, I would probably put $500,000 perhaps in the real estate fund, right? It's a more solid investment. If you buy a property that is in a good area, the candidates that are looking to rent have a significant income and stuff like that, you're going to be okay. Most of the property that I own, we're okay because of the location as well as the proximity to the train, etc. But with, crypto, like you said, we're talking about, 1,000% or 5,000% return. It would be foolish not to at least invest some of that money into crypto to see if you can make a larger return from that. So I would probably park like maybe perhaps $300,000 to $400,000 on the side if opportunity arise, as well as also for the stock market. We don't know where the stock market is headed either. So if an opportunity come about, like Tesla now, I think last time I looked, it was at like 600, right?
Yeah.
Or below 600. If it goes like maybe perhaps 550, if you have a significant, maybe perhaps like $200,000, maybe perhaps it might be a good time to buy it on the dip, right? Yeah. In a few years, it will rise. And real estate, it's not common to like 2x or 1,000x. I rarely see that 1,000x, but when it comes to crypto and other investment vehicle, it can happen. Can you lose it all? Yes, you can lose it all, but it certainly is worth the odds because you can't go to Vegas or you go to the casino with 1,000 and win something like 100,000. It's the odds are so low.
Yeah, it's like winning the lottery. And they talk about like really smart investors, they use asymmetrical return strategies. So essentially, it's like you put most of your money in very, safe assets, real estate having tangible assets, they'll never go down to nothing, right?
Right.
And then you put like, say, 2% of your money into crypto, right? The people that put 2% of their money into crypto, say you had $100,000, you put, 2,000 into crypto. If you did that like, 5 years ago, that 2% would have been the majority of your growth in assets. So like you're taking very little risk. If you lose that 2,000, hey, whatever, it's it's gone and you still have the $98,000. But if that $2,000 was able to increase the way that it did, yeah, you're looking at huge returns. So these are the types of strategies that people do in order to see really massive spikes in their wealth creation.
Yeah, I would be even more aggressive because
I know, totally.
I would probably go
with 40%.
Yeah, maybe 10, 15% because you know, you really want to be aggressive when other people are fearful or skeptical. And I think that in the crypto world right now, you see so many people on the sideline just looking in, right? And that's the time to be aggressive versus, when everybody's in. That's like you're playing like to ultimately play safer. But right now, everybody's on the sideline looking in, and it comes from knowing my friend. Like you have a friend that just made 30K, right? Alpha
Yeah.
1000. I know a friend that just made over $1 million.
Wow.
Off of XRP, and that sort of the ripple effect of it. I mean, I've had situations where my friend was like, "Hey, look at I had like 10,000, and now it's like 100,000." And these are people that I grew up with, that I know, and even family members of mine.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not take that into consideration? This is life-changing money for some people, and you can't really just go out and just have like these type of opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, definitely not. I'll tell you a little story. So I don't know if I've shared this before on the podcast, but back in 2012, I was at this dinner, this meetup group, right? It was at somebody's house. I got into this conversation with this guy, and he was telling me that the company that he worked for just got bought out, and he's kind of like semi-retired. He lives a nice little life. He's got a couple million in the bank, whatever. So then he was telling me about this thing. He's like, there's this new thing called Bitcoin, and I think you should like look into it, man. And he's explaining what it is, blockchain and like decentralized. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And like, he kept like following me around the party. Like, I don't know. He was just so adamant about it. And it's like, he's like, dude, it's like 0.00001 cent, put $100 in. Like, listen, I'll come over your house. I'll teach you how to do it. I thought this guy was trying to scam me, So like, I was like, okay, man, thanks. I'll take your number, whatever. Never call the guy. And then couple of years later, 2 years later, it's at like $100, right? I'm at this this Christmas party with some of my high school friends, and one of my high school friends' husbands, my buddy Ron. Now we're like brothers, but like he told me it was like $100. He's like, dude, are you in Bitcoin or not? I'm like, no, man, I had an opportunity to invest in it at 0.0001 cent. And no, it's $100. That's crazy. I'm not going to invest in that. Why would I put $100 in for a Bitcoin? That's nuts. And then fast forward all these years, I didn't do it then. And then fast forward to like, 2017, it's like, hovering or anywhere from like, $2,500 to like $5,000. I got a little bit in, and like, that's how you start. Like you put in, you don't have to buy one whole Bitcoin.
Right.
You just put in a little bit here or whatever it is. And, it became a really good, return from 2,500 to like 50,000. That's a big, jump. So it's never really too late, as long as you're not like, being stupid about it and putting all your money in one basket, and, kind of diversify those funds and look at projects that really have long-term applications that can really change the world, like XRP, right? Like that's going to be a transition from the Swift banking system, which, why do we have to pay money to send money somewhere else, like all these fees and like international fees and all that, where XRP is like, it happens instantaneously. You don't have to wait a couple of days or whatever, and you're saving tons of money on transactional costs. And there's so many cool coins out there and so many new applications. It's amazing time we're living in.
Yeah, it is very exciting times. And like I said, it's really taken front stage, and any investor that is sort of keen on wealth creation would be foolish not to take a look at this and see that, it reminds me of the time when we were, remember online shopping came on, and we're like, whoa, I'm scared somebody's going to hack me, or, this cannot be, the mall's not going away. Look at the malls now, my wife loves online shopping. All the little knickknacks, like we buy, like, things that we need around the house, she just buys it online because it can be done like faster in like literally like the next day or 2 days from now, that the things is right in front of our house. So I think it's similar to that with crypto, where in the sense that there's apprehension and there's fear, but then that's where opportunity comes, and we know as an entrepreneur that's the time to come in and be aggressive when other people are fearful.
100%. And if you, all you have to do is look at the big institutional investment companies, they're putting so much money into, cryptocurrency. So you know it's not gonna, they're not putting in billions to lose billions. It's not gonna go down to nothing. So very, very interesting stuff. Tommy, I know we talked a little bit about this, but recently you had a little bit of a health scare. Can you tell us a little bit about how that maybe changed your perspective on things?
Sure. I was recently diagnosed with diabetes. I think largely because the pandemic. I was maybe perhaps drinking like sugary stuff like energy drinks and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And then I don't have any side effects, and relatively I'm not overweight or anything like that. So it was never really a big concern, but it was mainly genetics. So um, when I tested my glucose level, I mean, it was like 566. It was like through the roof. There's a test called I think it's like the AC like 1-3 or something like whatever. There's a blood sugar test, and the normal person is like I think like 7 or 8. I'm like at like 13.5, which is like dangerously high level,
Mhm.
and it just really kind of show like for me I was like I need to change because I can't keep at this pace because I have 2 young kids, and I obviously don't want them to grow up without a father, and my wife to not have a husband. So I'm changing my diet as well as my lifestyle and incorporating making sure that exercise is definitely more part of my daily routine, because before it was just like, yeah, I'll do it, I'll get to it.
Mhm.
But now like I gotta do it, which is different mentality.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's vulnerable to talk about it, but yeah, it's like all the decisions that we make every single day, they do add up. And you're such a healthy guy. Like just looking at you, you have a lot of energy. You're always in a good mood. And I would have never guessed. So like for the people that out there that are in relatively good health, like there's so many things that we need to like kind of look out for because yeah, genetics is a big factor when it comes to any kind of degenerative disease and things like that. So I'm so glad that first of all you were able to find out through the blood work that you did, and now you're kind of like course correcting. But yeah, definitely, they're definitely a scary thing to find out.
Yeah, and we're very like I think I'm very blessed to know that we're not on this earth for obviously we're not on this earth for a long period of time,
Mhm.
maybe about 60 to 80 years the most, right? And so really have to make the most out of it and live the life that you want to, like that limitless life that you had mentioned, because by the time when and if you're ready to go, like you don't want to leave stones unturned. You want to really give your live the life and put in as much effort as you can. So
100%. Tommy, I plan on living to 150, by the way.
I hope so, brother. I hope so, man. But I don't want to live that long.
But it's all about the quality of life, right? It's all
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
quality of life. If we're living good quality of life, we don't want to be old and frail and not be able to do anything, obviously.
absolutely. I want to be able to. It's not how many years you live; it's how you live and the impact that you leave behind that really, really matters.
100%, brother. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Like this was so enlightening to learn, to pick your brain a little bit. And let me ask you a question, Tommy. Why do you think you came to Earth here as Tommy Tran? What did you want to experience?
Uh, well, it's pretty a heavy-weighted question right there. But honestly, I know that a lot of people say that you create wealth and you can't take it with you. Why bother? And that's the mentality I think that a lot of people. It's like that poverty-stricken mentality.
Mhm.
Why bother? Why try at all? Right?
Yeah.
For me, I've talked to people that are extremely wealthy, and I say, why do you do what you do? And they're like, legacy, brother, legacy that, I want to leave this earth, like to know that, my children get a little bit ahead further than I did, that my ceiling is their ground floor. And also to be able to help the people that is around me, um, and help their life to and better their life. It doesn't always have to be money per se, but money really does help in tough and situation. I've seen people that have passed away. One of my fraternity brother, or my little brother, he passed away, and his name is Hui. And he was about to be a dentist. He had brain, it was a cancer or whatnot, and he passed away. And I remember when he passed away, over 1,000 people came, and he was like, I think at like 27, 28 at the time or something like that. And he impacted so many people, and obviously people flew all around the country just to be there for him on that day. And I just want to say, like, it's really how you live your life, if you only care about yourself, then when you pass, like, really, you don't leave any legacy, you don't leave anything behind. But if you live the life that's fruitful, that you care about other people, even when you pass, they will remember your name. So that's the type of like life that I want to be able, if and when I go, that people still remember my name, or whatever good deeds that I left here.
Yeah, they absolutely certainly will, man. You're having a huge impact on this world, and Jersey City, and your family and the people that are around you. You're such a great inspiration. You're always in a great mood, and pleasure to call you my friend. What does God or spirituality mean to you, and what role does it play in your life?
God is really, really important to me. I pray a lot. Since the pandemic, I can't go to church, I don't, this is so weird that we can't even go to church, but God is extremely important to me in terms of, like, with making very difficult decisions, as well as just my overall daily life, like, to appreciate and thank him for what he has given me. I don't know how some people live without, like, God, or having a sense that there's a spirit, like higher spiritual being. But I can't live that way. I think that men, or just people in general, are weaker without faith, And so when there is a storm, or challenges that come, they're easily succumbed by that, versus a man with faith. He will surpass those challenges. And that's how I feel about God, like, just like having someone or higher being, behind your back to help you through it. And as an entrepreneur, you really kind of really need that, you need to have that sense that there is a higher being that's pulling for you, that's helping you through those challenges. If not, there are many sleepless nights. So it'll be very difficult to be an entrepreneur without it.
Yeah, 100%, brother. That resonates on so many levels. Tom, thanks so much for coming on, brother. How can we learn more about you?
Well, I am on Zillow. I'm also on Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. So Tommy Tran, you can find me on Facebook. I am very open to, obviously meeting new people and whatnot, and just having that sort of community where we kind of care and love each other, and help each other grow. So I'm all about that. Contact me on social media.
Beautiful. Yeah. And if you're looking for making some money in real estate, absolutely hit Tommy up. He's the man to talk to.
Yes, absolutely. We'll help you grow your money.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.